Welcome back to the Stanford Cardinal Dynasty, where today we're going to go through our first off season and get this team prepared for hopefully a much better season 2. Ultimately, it was a rough year 1 here for the Cardinal and for Coach Barrington. We had to sort out an offense that just didn't have a feel to it at all. Defense really never quite found their true groove. We picked up 2 wins, one against a ranked SMU and in the final game of the season against San Jose State. We had several other close games, nearly found a big upset against Notre Dame, who at the time was ranked 4, as well as almost a win against Virginia Tech. We let a lot of games slip away from us, and ultimately, just a little bit of some progression, learning the game a little bit, and adding some talent, especially players who have maybe some mentals to their game. I think we could greatly improve in just one off season. And before we could really even move forward, we are already improving as we land our first commit of the offseason, tight end CJ Draft. And hopefully he ends up getting drafted. But from there, we will look to continue improving our team by hiring new coordinators. The other ones just didn't fit what I was looking for moving forward. So let's take a look to see who we have available here for offensive coordinator. And I'm looking for someone who's really going to help improve ratings. And then if they could also boost some XP, that will work. Now, where we're looking to find a fit is more of a pro-style offense. That's what Stanford is mostly known for, though we've modernized it a little bit here. So are there any? No. There is pistol. We do run some pistol. There is interest in James Jeremiah to be the defensive coordinator for one of our rivals. So let's take a look at his tree. And he doesn't have any of the ones we're looking for. I need to find a tactician. And someone that could fit here is Elic Ayomanor, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He does have some tactician traits. Unfortunately, we cannot actually see what those are, but he also comes with motivator. And I think that is really the 2 areas that we want our coordinators to be in. Now, he does already have some interest for being a head coach for Sam Houston, as well as their offensive coordinator or offensive coordinator for Navy. I think we put in an offer here for Elic Ayomanor. Again, correct me if I'm mispronouncing that or any names. Now, as for our defensive coordinator, we're looking for either a base 4-3 or honestly a 4-2-5. I think could be very fitting. So it looks like there are at least 3 different options here for us. Highest level would be Byron Burfict, who does have some interest from Tulsa, Northwestern, and Vanderbilt to be their DC. But he also, again, is a motivator and a tactician, exactly what we're looking for here. So I think we already have our next offer. We'll put one in here for Byron Burfict. As for ourselves, we do have some offers coming in, though we're not moving, but Kent State does want us to be their offensive coordinator, head coach for Southern Miss, or offensive coordinator for Kennesaw State. So that's interesting, still not going. As for other staff moves, well, West Virginia, their head coach retired, same as Akron. Oklahoma's head coach went to the NFL, so that's kind of a fun new thing. We didn't really have that in any of the previous. A lot of head coaches were fired. And I mean a lot. Nebraska fired theirs. Just looking for any big name ones. And for head coaches, really, it's just Nebraska. But as for early signing day, well, we have missed out on a couple players. Nathan Carter, one of the tight ends, and Tyquan Lynch both decide to go elsewhere. So we've only brought in 1 tight end. We might see what other ones are still available come the offseason scouting and recruiting. We also might look to maybe bring in someone from the transfer portal. We'll see what's available. Additionally, we did have a center also decide to go Tennessee in Devin Sahara. And lastly, we missed out on 2 of the corners we were looking at. Gradkowski's going to Bama and Enunwa is going LSU. But as we move to the next week, we do land one of the other centers. Now, this is Dennis Shepard. He's a guy who we've kind of gone after. He is a Gem 2-star, still probably going to be a redshirt, down the line starter, mostly a backup. But now we have the chance to improve Coach Barrington here, and I want to go into recruiter because that is what I want him to be. I've taken the coordinators off of being recruiters, so we need to make sure that we got someone to pull through here. And I think where we need to start is really in the trenches. So let's fully upgrade here the defensive line with our 20 points. And we've got both of the offensive and defensive trenches fully ready to go for recruiting. And I wish there was maybe one of those pop-up screens like when we get a commit, but we did have our coordinators decide to come to us, so we got them over other schools. But with our coaches officially finally hired here, we can actually take a look to see what their talent trees look like. And for the OC, yeah, expect it to be primarily just offense, and most of these are filled up, so that is good. It's definitely a step forward for us at coordinator, and hopefully this will help us out. As for the area that I was more specifically worried about, which is the tactician, we only have a few here for our OC. We're going to get a boost to pass block and run block, boost to run block power and finesse for receivers and tight ends, and a little bit more boost here for the O-line, pass block, impact, run block, and lead. So the bases are being covered. Definitely look to further develop the offensive line. As for our DC, who again has the same group, motivator and tactician, we see again most of these filled out, though still missing the specialists for both levels. Pretty solid. As for the tactician, if we go down to it, he doesn't actually have anything selected. So he has tactician unlocked, but there is actually no traits put into it. So that is a little bit unfortunate. Well, one thing that is weird as I'm checking these, it always sends me back to this screen and it still has our previous coordinators in there. But if we back out, it is the new one. So a little bit more bugs here to sort out for college football. And I'm pretty sure one of them even had a head coach option as well. If I wasn't mistaken, it was the OC. He chose to come here to a more prestigious program. And speaking of prestigious, we haven't talked about any award winners yet. Player of the Year goes to KJ Jefferson of UCF. He also won the Heisman. Had nearly 3,500 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Coach of the Year goes to Greg Lynn. We did not have a good year. Didn't expect us to be anywhere close to the running, but also Liberty did make the playoffs, so great job from Lynn. Next up, best quarterback is KJ Jefferson, beating Carson Beck. Best defensive player, I don't think is any surprise that it would be from Iowa. That's all they do. Aaron Graves, the DT. Show some love to the defensive line. Best defensive back is Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan. Best running back is out of Clemson, and yeah, Phil Maffa made us look ridiculous out there, so it makes sense that he does end up going. As for Ollie Gordon, he's all the way down here at 7 for being a Heisman runner-up last year. Best receiver does go to Dejon Reynolds out of Pitt. Lombardi, Aaron Graves, the DT from Iowa. Johnny Unitas Award does go to Carson Beck over KJ Jefferson. Best defensive end, out of Illinois, Dennis Briggs Jr. Best interior O-lineman, 3 of which were all Georgia, though the winner does go to Tate Ratledge. Pretty sure that's how that's pronounced. Best tight end goes to Colston Loveland. It's a true shame that the Cardinal does not have a single guy on this list. The Broyles Award goes to Victor Cotterill. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, again, always do correct. Best linebacker goes to Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon, though I do have to state Tafiti moved up a spot in the final week. He's going to be our defensive captain for sure next year. Best center is Raheem Anderson out of Michigan. Somehow the 3 interior guys for Georgia, it is not their center winning best center. Lou Groza Award is Brady Denneberg out of Syracuse. Definitely no one on our team. And the best punter goes to Tommy Doman out of Michigan. I would throw our guy in there just because he was also a kicker and he was the kickoff guy. He did a lot, but he wasn't that great. And for the final award winner, it goes to Dominic Lovett out of Georgia for best returner. We only had one guy in the running for all of these awards. And your college football national champion is the Texas Longhorns. Not sure how I personally feel about that. Georgia gets knocked out second round by Pitt, 29-20, who then goes on to play against Texas. UCF, they go to the semifinals, lose to Texas 37-18. As for Liberty is no longer in here. Perhaps we checked that too early? Maybe they lost a conference championship and Nevada ends up squeaking in. Georgia destroys them. Pitt then moves up to the 4th spot. So maybe we just checked that a little bit early. Ohio State, Oklahoma State, battle of OSUs, and Ohio State destroys them. They also then beat Michigan. How about that for realism? Not so likely. And they barely lose to Pitt 41-39. Any other crazy games here? Washington makes it and they lose to Notre Dame. So our rival makes it to the second round and then they lose to UCF. A&M loses to Texas in the second round, and Oregon nearly took out Texas in the first round of the playoffs. So a lot could have changed with just a few point swings the other way. As for conference standings, well, ACC, Pittsburgh made it all the way to the college football playoffs. They went 13-3. Clemson finished in second, going 9-5. SMU, we beat them. They go 9-4, as well as NC State, who we did not beat. But ultimately, we end up here on the very bottom with the worst record in the conference, worst record just in general. And I'm going to start to note how these are looking in the future, not so much for this first season, and we'll talk about that at a later part in this episode as things are going to shake up by news of the college football board. The American, East Carolina wins that one. Big 12 goes to Utah. Michigan takes the Big 10. I don't think that is much of a surprise. Conference USA goes to Liberty, and indeed they did lose one of their final games, it looks like, so they dropped to 12-2, and with that they fell out of the college football playoffs. As for the MAC, it is Canes Buffaloes, who go 8-6, barely above Miami University, Miami of Ohio. The Mountain West goes to Nevada, Boise State in third, underneath UNLV, despite having a much better record. I'm assuming with the same conference record that they lost to UNLV in one of their few losses. Pac-2, very close. Washington State gets it 6-7 compared to 5-7. And the SEC winner is Texas A&M. Surprised though with Arkansas here at 10-4. They have not historically done all too well. And Texas, who actually went on to win the national championship, they weren't even top here in the SEC. And for your final overall Sun Belt, does have the top being Marshall, though split that. They won the East. Texas State won the West, going 10-4, though assuming that weird things happened at the end and somehow Georgia Southern and Appalachia State are above Texas State. It is what it is. As we officially enter the area of the offseason where we can do things, Isaac Darrisaw recruits. He's another 3-star, though if I'm not mistaken, he was a gem offensive lineman. And indeed, this is where we start doing things. Players leaving first and foremost. I really hope Ayomanor has not popped up saying he wants to transfer. That is the big concern. And we've got a lot of people who are considering moving on. Now, Ayomanor is not looking to transfer. He is looking to go to the NFL draft, and they say there's essentially no chance at us to persuade any of these. Roush is also looking to transfer. That's a big hit. Some of our best players, Galvin started last year. Butler, I'm fine moving on from. Same with Rubin. Connie didn't really play at all for us. But there are some guys in here I was not expecting, and we only have 2 chances at persuasion. So obviously we're going to start with Elic Ayomanor. Try to persuade him, and it's obviously a fail. So we will not have Ayomanor next year. One more chance. Out of all these people, it would be Galvin. Again, we'll try here, and it's a fail. So all of these guys are transferring. Ayomanor, Roush, Makula. I'm really bad at some of these names. Jake is transferring. Galvin is transferring. Butler, Rubin, Connie. And then we get into our seniors. So outside of Ayomanor, no one is in the spot here where they're going to get drafted. But as for other starters leaving, Abar was a starter part-time for us. Obviously, Bryce Farrell, great final season. He is moving on. Where he ends up going, who knows? He was only a 73, so maybe accounting. Franklin is graduating, starting DT. Labor, starting safety's gone. Lehrer, who was starting tackle and center for us throughout the year. Manley as well. Mayberry's gone. He didn't play great. Essentially, our entire starting offensive line is gone. Starting interior of our defensive line is gone. And a few more key guys. Sinclair also gone. Shield Taylor was a starting fullback for us. We are out on a lot of guys. Unger will be the last one I will mention. That's a big class to leave, and I was not prepared for us to have no chance to persuade Ayomanor or any of these guys. So That's what happens when you only win 2 games. But at least some positive news. We get another defensive tackle to help fill in for all those that just left. Ronnie Zimmer out of Bellflower, Cal. Welcome in. Now, one positive thing from Ayomanor going, he actually ends up going in the 4th round. That will help out our pro potential in the future. Still really would have loved one more year with him, maybe with a better offensive line, better quarterback play. Unfortunately, it's 1 year and done. So as we head into the actual recruiting time here, transfer portal opens. A couple things to note. The quarterback that we were very much moving towards getting a verbal commit from in Tua out of Hawaii, our pro potential apparently dropped drastically with only 1 player going, all the way from what was probably a B- down to a D+. So ends up not really helping us out that Ayomanor left. We'll end up having to remove him from our board, and hopefully we don't end up getting guys decommitting from that. As we jump through here, doesn't quite look to be the case. Outside of one of the centers who now we are locked out on. We had guys coming in Ohio State and Texas. Still a loss there. We could try to go after Aaron Tooney if we want. We are still pursuing some other guys here. We do jump in front from Avery Titus. Last I saw, Washington State had gotten in front of us. And it looks like we are going to miss out on 2 more guys here, again due to pro potential. They were 3 stars, so we're at least not missing out on any more 4 stars. Still the only one going after Augur, so that is good. With a lot of DTs leaving, I would like to bring in at least 3. And the free safety we were in the lead for as well. And safety is a thin spot for us, so that is big. We've got to get some guys back into the NFL to help fill this stuff out. But at least the kicker we're going after, he doesn't care about anything. He just wants to go kick a ball. So first off here, let's take a look at what 4 stars are really interested in coming in here. And first on the board here is a DT in Keanu Tenuvasa. Probably butchering that one. A sophomore. He played at Utah, and playing style is his biggest need, and we fit that. So that is great. He's also kind of looking at BYU and USC. We need another DT, so we're going to add him to our board. And in fact, the only other 4-star who's even considering us is an offensive lineman. We do need offensive linemen, so that is good. Originally from Los Angeles, played at Georgia, and his deal breaker is playing style. We still fit that. We are 4th on his board here. We will add him as well. Now, as of any quarterback who's interested in transferring here, there is a San Jose State quarterback in Jay Butterfield. That was not who they had starting. We are 1st on his board. There is also a guy out of Rice who, both of these guys are 3 stars, though that doesn't mean that they're not developed at all. In terms of ranking, it's EJ Warner who's the better quarterback. Field general, both are field general. And both are also juniors. So do we go after another quarterback here? Daniels didn't end up leaving, so we do still have him. Where we could use some more immediate help is at receiver. There is one guy out of Army interested and another out of Oregon State. I don't know about a 2-star from Vandy. Deep threat under 6 feet. Noah Short is taller than the previous. And Valson, the 3rd, is the tallest. Junior, and sophomore. I think we could at least take a look here at the receivers. There is also a tight end, and that is now an area of need. Jamari Johnson out of Louisville, who's a 3-star. We're 2nd on his board. He's originally from Cal. We'll add him. And another offensive lineman we'll add here is a 3-star who was at Florida State, who's originally from Stockholm, so that's cool. Maybe he was a rugby player? I don't know. Probably should look that up. Offensive guard. There are 2 3-stars, New Mexico State and Oklahoma, a freshman and a junior, and the freshman is power. That's more of what we're looking for. So we'll tack him on as well. And there's actually surprisingly no centers interested in playing here. It's a good thing that that was an area we recruited pretty heavily. Defensive end-wise, there is quite a few 2-stars. I will add here Trey Clay, a 3-star formerly from Northwestern. Doesn't mean we're going after all these guys. He is a speed rusher, but just want to kind of get a look at some of them. Now, we did miss out on the quarterback from Hawaii. We could look for a transfer who played at Oregon in Tuoti. Again, probably mispronouncing a lot of these. I'm going to have to Google some of these. He's a run stopper. We just had 2 of our starting linebackers leave. So we do need to add a little bit here. I'm not going to add any 2 stars. But 3 stars, we got a pass coverage guy here, Roger Sheets. He's interested in us. It'll make our life easier. San Diego State, we'll add him. He's a power rusher, so some edge rush. There was also just 1 3-star at middle linebacker from Oregon State, originally from Utah. He is a field general, good size, sophomore. We'll tack him on. And corner, not a whole lot of help coming here. From Rice, we could look for a junior here in Narcisse. And there is not a single safety above a 2-star interested in coming here. So it doesn't look like we're going to find much of a transfer there. So first and foremost here, I do think we might need to narrow things down a little bit. And these 3-star guys that are not transfers, I'm just going to go ahead and remove them, narrow in, so that way we're not giving scholarships to guys that we shouldn't be. But we are going to go after any 4-star. I'm not going to scout them. 3 stars we can scout. But first off, scholarship and 50 points. And I went ahead and gone through, given everyone a scholarship and added those 50 points, or if we were in the top 5, went ahead and did the hard sell. Now we are left with 65 points, and that tells me we need to start getting some people in for visits. The earlier we do this, the more we lock these guys down, the better. And I always try to give it to the guys who are having some competition. So like Avery Titus here, it's pretty important we get him in as soon as possible. As for what he likes, program tradition looks to be the best, so we'll tack that on for him. That leaves us with 25 points. We could look to start scouting then some of these 3 stars. And I think where we will begin is with the receivers, because they are juniors. So we will scout once, twice, and don't have time for any more, but we have speed here from short. That's something we didn't quite have last year. Catching traffic looks like it should be decent. He's got some release, some deep route running. Overall, 88 awareness too. I mean, seems like he should be all right. And with the final 5 points, I'm just going to tack it on here to Ernest Green, because I want to make sure we definitely lock down the 4-star transfer. And after the first week, no one commits, but no one committed elsewhere, and no one's locked us out. So a good start. So essentially where I go to move on from here is, well, check competition first and foremost. TCU is in front of us here for Valsin the third. But we are in front of Colorado and UCLA for short. But we are into the top 5. So let's see, we've got 1 brand exposure, and that's what he really likes. Let's see if we could try to finesse a hard sell here based off the information we do have. Just making sure, okay, so brand exposure could be playing time and pro potential. It cannot be the to the house one because championship contender is X'd out. And the same could be said for TV time. Championship contender is a no-go, though it could also be the workhorse. So there are 2 different options that we have. We have an A- and a B and a D+ with the workhorse. Versus the starter, you have A-, A- and D+. So we're gonna go here with the starter one. We'll check on it in the 2nd week to see if that's not actually what his motivations are. And if it's not, then we'll switch it. And we'll do the same here for Valsin. So he likes playing time, and we know championship contender. So those are the 2 things we got to make sure we have. And there's only 1 that matches that. So it's going to be TV time, brand exposure, which essentially is the NIL, championship contender, and playing time. 2 A- and a C I think is pretty solid. But considering that we are having to battle here with TCU, I want to make sure we fill out his points, so we'll also add DM the player. And I went around, once again, did the same thing for all the players that we did for these receivers. Anyone in the top 5, we put on a hard sell. Now that leaves us with 240 points, which is perfect to once again schedule visits. We got to get these guys in as soon as possible. Anyone who has multiple people going after them, we got to get them in quickly here. So let's go after the DT, and we will schedule a visit week 2. There's no differences between weeks. And the only thing we know for sure is he likes proximity to home. So we'll add that on. Next guy, yes, definitely want to make sure we get the tackle in here. He also has people coming after him, so we'll add him in week 2. Now you can fill up your slots for a week, so also keep that in mind. And as for the receivers, probably want to keep them on separate weeks as well. And considering we are behind TCU here, I'm going to favor that we get Valsin in first. So we're going to add him to week 2. And yeah, he doesn't really have anything necessarily that we know for sure that he likes. So if we back out of that and we take a look at what we're pitching to him, playing time and brand exposure, playing time indeed he does like. Good to always double check that. So we will do playing time instead for his, which I believe is attend a position meeting. So we'll add that on. Now with still 100 points, we are behind here at BYU for one of the linebackers. So let's make sure we get him in quickly as well. Want to make sure we get our visit scheduled before anyone else does. Playing style is best for him. Now with just enough points for one more, there are two guys we could go after, Cord Shaw or Roger Sheets. We're behind both of these guys. We are further behind BYU, so it's risky to go with this one, but I think it would be the best option for us. And once again, we will go with attend a practice because playing style is important for him. Now that leaves us with 20 points. And with those 20, since we weren't able to get everyone scheduled for the guys that we are currently behind, I do want to add a little bit more here. So we'll add on a DM the player here to Roger Sheets. And at corner, especially since that is an area of need, we're going to add the final 10 to Narcisse. And that is all of our points here in week 2 of the offseason. And we finally land one of the DTs we're looking at here in Keanu. I'm going to have to learn the last name, but that is our first offseason signing. We also get the transfer of Ernest Green. That is big. So 2 areas of need, 2 tackle positions, good for us. Though it does not look like the visit went well for Valson. He goes to TCU over us. So now that really narrows down our receiving options. And because of that, I want to make sure we get Noah Short in here as quick as possible because in fact, UCLA during that week actually jumped us. So let's double check. Motivations are good. Let's schedule a visit here week 3. And he likes playing time. He could find it here, that is for sure. We'll tack that on as well as giving him an extra 10. Now it does look like Roger Sheets is being pulled away here by Tennessee, so I want to make sure we get him in here quickly, and he is looking for probably playing time being his best option as well. So player meeting for him. Next to get a visit, Trey Clay. We are behind Michigan State. If we could miraculously jump above them, all the better. Playing time, probably again, really good for him. We'll tack that on. And it doesn't look like we gained much ground with Narcisse, so let's make sure we get a visit in with him as well. No boost coming in, so that is unfortunate. And playing time for what, the 3rd time in a row? That ends up being everyone who we were currently down to or close to. Now we do have a couple players here that we would like to bring in, so let's get them next on a visit. Week 3 and conference prestige actually looks like it is the best. So let's find where conference prestige is. And it's apparently the last one I looked for, Trophy Tour. Now as for Tano here, another week 3, and for him it looks like playing time yet again is best for him. Now we have enough space for 2 more. Position of need, probably let's lock in the 4-star first. So another week 3 schedule with playing style being the best, so he'll attend practice. And we already have quite a few centers we've gone after. And it looks like Simmons is the furthest away from committing. So let's try to get him boosted up, or apparently can't schedule a visit there. But we can schedule a visit here for Jamari Johnson. So why not then? Need to send him on another trophy tour. And instead of scheduling the visit here for Simmons, we'll just give him our final 5 points. Once again, we're now out. And we're getting another round of recruits committing. Aaron Tooney, the transfer. Avery Titus also transferring in. Noah Short, we do get the receiver. That is big. Jamari Johnson ends up liking his tour, so he commits. Brooks, he's in. We get another outside linebacker in Tano. That was a good group here. Unfortunately, a lot of other people did decide to go elsewhere. Sheets goes elsewhere. The linebacker in Shaw goes elsewhere. We missed out on the corner, and we missed out on the edge rusher. So of all of the guys on our board, Simmons and Augers and Chickalo still have yet to decide. Chickalo is the kicker, though we're close to moving into the top 25 for him. Let's go ahead, since we've got all the points here, let's go ahead and send the house his way. Augers, we're doing really well. We're at the top. Let's might as well go ahead and max out these points. We'll tack on an additional 25. And for Simmons, getting really close, we'll take off the 5 here, and we will add on the 25. So let's take a look at the individual position groups. Is there another quarterback we want to go after, a running back? We did not recruit a fullback. We do not have one on roster. I think we need to find one. We got 2 receivers, 2 tight ends. We're hopefully going to get 2 tackles. We've got 2 guards. We've got 3 centers, so we had a pretty good offensive line group. 2 edge guys, maybe even more. 3 DTs, again, hopefully making that 4. Another 2 more edge, whether they're off ball or on the line, we'll find out. 1 true off ball, only 2 corners, and 1 safety. So I think safety, linebacker, corner, and fullback. Now, good news is there's a couple of fullbacks who are interested in us. Kemp, he already has an offer from Boise State, probably won't be able to jump that. Get a strictly blocking tight end here in Dawkins. That's probably our best option. He doesn't have any offers, so let's go after Dawkins. There are no other interested parties at middle linebacker, but there is George Adebo. And we had a former Adebo here at Stanford, so just because of that, we're going to tack on him. Now, it says he has an offer, but no one that he's really that interested in. So we'll put him on the board, see if we like him. There is Max Rhodes, who is a JUCO sophomore. UCLA is a little bit interested, not sure if we'd be able to jump them. A slot style, probably not going to fit. Any more help at safety then? Well, there's just someone who just hasn't had anyone go after him. A run support safety, or another run support safety. How is third run support safety? Do we have anyone here at free who's a zone? That's what we're looking for here. Apparently not. And in fact, all but one are run support. There is Cantrell, who's a hybrid. They just typically don't have well-developed coverage ratings. Let's try one last here. Strong safety, no. So not a whole lot of guys for us to go after. Anyone left in the transfer portal who does have interest in coming here then? There is a corner here in Malcolm Bell. He is a zone. Maybe he could play over at free safety. We'll tack him on the board because honestly no one else is going after him. There is an off-ball linebacker, a run stopper in Faave? Maybe, probably not, butchering that one again. We'll add him to the board. And that seems to round out that group. So not a whole lot left then for us to go after. Let's add a scholarship here to each of these guys and some points along the way. First, put in the send the house for them. So then if you hit the scholarship, you're not losing them and have to go find them. Adebo once again, send the house, offer the scholarship, Bell, house, and scholarship. We'll see if any of these guys do end up signing with us or committing to us. What I've heard is you really just have to be top of their board come that final week. If that's the case, then they should go with you. Now, no one is going after some of these guys, so hopefully we do end up getting them. We will find out soon. And in the final week, Lucas Simmons does decide to come here, left tackle. Chicolo, we get a kicker, a true kicker. We do get one of the linebackers we just added, and the fullback. We did not get all of them. Bell ends up going to Arizona, and Adebo goes to Virginia Tech. But overall, we bring in a class of 28 total players. And where do we sit here on the board as we run on down? 18th, we signed a top 20 class, including 16 4-stars. So we added a lot of good, solid help. Next, we need to make sure that they're in the best possible place to play. And that means it's position change time. So let's get this team sorted. First off, let's get our athletes where they're supposed to be. Easiest way to do this is to sort by position. Get the athletes on top. Now, Bartow, we know he is a running back, a power back. Needs some help there. I'm pretty sure our power back ended up graduating, so we need at least one. As for Chad Lloyd, I want to say he's the quarterback, right? Yes, he is a quarterback. He could also be a running back, but let's add a 75 overall quarterback. That's a nice find there for us. For our last athlete, Maza, he's the center, or a lot of other things. In fact, as a center, he's only a 71 overall. Now, we added him to the board to play center, but he might be surprisingly better at blocking as a tight end or as a speed rusher at DT. I prefer my DTs to be a little bit more run stoppers. So I think what we're going to do, how many centers do we have? Only one right now. I think we have to put him at center. We'll stick him there. He might play elsewhere. Now going position by position, can any of these guys help us out anywhere else? Lamson, I wish he looked to move somewhere else, and he's strictly a quarterback. No possible thing he could do anywhere else. Lloyd could have been a running back, 92 speed. And he's coming in, at least right now, before any sort of growth of overall. He's above Brown. Very interested to see how these options play at quarterback, because we do have a good amount. Running back wise, Bartow, again currently second highest rated, though Xavier Joshua could end up jumping in with some overall growth. Still, it's Irvin's job to lose, but again, Bartow is that power back that we don't have outside. Fullback wise, 66 for Taron Dawkins, not awful. I wish we could go to the player page on this, but 70 run block is actually pretty solid. The finesse and power, not great. Lead block is pretty solid. He should be a good blocking guy for us. Now at receiver, we have a big deficit of talent. No way to add any more here. Bachmeier, a 79 before growth. Noah Short, I don't know if transfers will go up at all in overall, but currently two guys that we brought in here are in our top 3. Borden, he showed some promise last year. Do we have a running back who's a receiving guy? No. And I know we don't have any tight ends with a lot of speed. In fact, we don't have any speed over 80 at tight end. But Jamari Johnson currently is in line to be a starter, and he did transfer. Then we did get CJ Draft. All these guys are blocking. And in terms of catching, actually Thomas Fleming, the sophomore, looks like he might have some of the better hands, as well as Bradley McCoy. But tight end is looking a little bit light. We might go after that position a little bit more here. Now, this is a huge get for us. Ernest Green III comes in at an 89 overall. I don't think we had an offensive lineman above an 85 last year. I want to say our best was 83, so that is huge. And this is probably the group that needs to see the most shakeup yet, because we are light in a lot of spots. That is for sure. Not a single starter returns. And I would have done it on camera, but I pretty much moved everyone around. So Green, Carrington, and Laws will stay at left tackle. Left guard is going to be Simmons and Anderson. It's our lightest group, but our best depth. At center, Joshua Mazza might be starting, strictly because he actually has some really, really good lead block at an 88, and he's got some good strength. We just need that awareness to go up. We'll see how he does to start. He's got help on both sides of him. Also have Tooney and Shepard there at center. Right guard got Pale, Brooks, Huitkin, maybe, and Darrisaw. And wrapping it out, Baklenko, maybe, and Simmons and Barden at right tackle. And the defense, I just went ahead and changed it up all. So it's all ready to go. And we're moving strictly to a 4-3. Still might play a little bit more 4-2-5. We'll play with that as we go. But Tafiti, he's going to be our star for this defensive line. Moving to left end, you also have Tano, Braden, and Galvin all playing here. Opposite side, we're going to have Ernest Cooper. He had a breakout late last season, just in time for his senior year. Steven Tyler, the guy that we picked up, a 76. We might want to see him on the field sooner rather than later. Joe Nelson and Avery Titus round out that group. DT, we should be good for a good handful of years moving forward, barring anything crazy. Keanu is moving in and starting immediately, that's for sure. Rashawn Bynum, I want to say he was at one of the left or right spots. We're moving him to DT, and we should see a good bit of him, as well as Javonte Willingham. He was the first player to commit to Coach Barrington. Hopefully we'll see him have a little bit of some playing time. He's got better strength than Bynum, but when it comes to all-around ability, just the block shedding is better with Bynum. So we'll bounce back between these two. And I really hate that we can't change numbers, because number 15 and number 16, that is awful for a DT. In fact, we only have one DT, two DTs wearing a number in the 90s. Like, come on now. Let us change these numbers. Finishing off the group after Willingham, you got Rowell, Zimmer, Augers, and Ume. So most likely Augers and Zimmer are going to be red-shirted. That'll give us 5 DTs. We'll stay healthy there and keep the guys around a little bit longer. Outside linebacker, these are all off-ball linebackers now. So Parker, Richardson, and Stevenson. Middle linebacker, you got Poe, Faeve, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Mattingly. Right outside is going to be Rose, Williams, and Tate. This is a very weak group. I'm hoping we're going to see a good boost when it comes to training results. As for corner, right, Ramos, Morris, Scott, Hemphill, Nichols, and Randall. You might note that one of the corners we had recruited not here. He moves over to free safety in Braverman, and he has the potential to see the start as a freshman. You also have Shea, Camp, Sumlin, and Richardson. Strong safety, Edwards, Cobbs, who also potentially could see some playing time season one. He's got some zone. He's just got some really good man. It might be bounce back between Braverman and Cobbs. But finishing off the strong safety, Chapman and Rourke. And then at kicker, you have Chickalo, punter. Strictly this year will be Flintoff. He doesn't have to play anything besides punter. So before any sort of training results, we have 289 overalls, right and green. Again, I don't know if the transfers will go up. Tafiti is our third highest rated player, looking like he's getting a boost right now at an 82. And now it's time for those training results. Who moved up? I wish one thing that they added was to see how much these players moved up, and it does not look like any transfers do increase. So good to know. Wright does become our first 90 plus overall player at a 91. Tafiti goes up a couple to 84, Anderson up to an 83, and Bachmeier an 83. He's going to be wide receiver 1 this year, and Daniels does not increase whatsoever. That really opens the door here for Elijah Brown. If we take a look at the awareness, it is in Daniels' favor. He's got more mobility. Of course, we also have that freshman, if we don't end up redshirting him, who could maybe be a runner for us. Short throw accuracy still is better from Daniels. Medium is actually Jackson. Deep is Jackson. Throw on the run about the same for all of them. Throw under pressure is best for Jackson. Break sack is going to be Daniels. And play action is going to be Elijah Brown. So we've got a quarterback controversy that's continuing throughout here. Honestly, if Jackson had better speed, we might start him. We might have a carousel there. Irvin does not go up by much, maybe 1 or 2 overall points. That is disappointing. Joshua goes up a little bit, Parrish and Williams. One thing to note though with Irvin is his speed did go up by 2 to 3, so we should see a little bit more of a burst. He's got 96 excel. If we could get him more to the outside, I think he could start to make a lot more things happen here. As for receiver, we did see Bachmeier jump up. I want to say that might be around 5 overall points. I'm not exactly sure what it was before. Amari does go up a good bit. That is good, as well as Harris going up a little bit. We're going to be pretty light at receiver. We're really going to need Bachmeier to perform and tight ends to come through. Maybe we got to lean heavy on the rushing game. Tight ends improve a little bit, but nothing drastic. Offensive line-wise, Carrington and Laws both 73. Anderson up to an 83. That's good because he is in line to potentially start. Center, no improvements because we don't have anyone besides freshmen. Pale goes up to an 81. And Baklenko up to an 80. So we're not going to have anyone outside of the true freshman at center lower than an 80 overall. So offensive line, more of a lateral movement with 1 good jump. Tafiti, we saw him moving up. Gavin also goes up a little bit. Not sure Braden did. Right end, Cooper is up to an 81. Nelson a 79. DT wise, Roel is at an 81 and Ume 75. Outside backer, Parker up to an 80. That I think is a really big jump, though. On the right side looks like true 79. We'll see, but that's huge. We really needed this linebacker core to take a big step, and it looks like at least the outside guys did. Mattingly only a 70. Right outside, Rose up to a 76. Williams 74 and Tate 72. Corner wise, Ramos I don't think really went up that much. How is his coverages looking? Yeah, they maybe went up a little bit. I don't think we could play much press coverage this year, so man-off coverage might just kind of be the case. As for safeties, Camp and Shea both at a 77, and throw in Richardson there. So we might not be starting Blankenship. Sumlin up to a 75, Edwards at 81, Chapman 75, and Rourke 72. And then punter up to a 74 in Flintoff. So there were some definite areas of growth that were needed. And that takes us to a very important stage here. One, encouraging transfers. We do have to thin out the roster, but first and foremost, custom conferences. One of my biggest videos on this channel talked about plans for the first dynasty, and indeed we're going to incorporate them starting from here. Now, to note, there have been talks of bugs about custom conferences. We're still going to do it, but there might be some weird things that happen. We'll keep an eye on things, but it's time to shake things up. So a word here from the Commissioner of College Football. Following a year that saw massive change across the board, every single conference shaken up, we've got to get back to true college football. Rivalries renewed, regional ball, but we're going to add a little bit of a twist. We are introducing relegation to college football. Now, with that, there will also be promotion. If you do bad in one of your Power 5, you will be relegated down to a group of 5. If you do well in your group of 5, well, you will see yourself moving up to one of the Power 5 conferences. So here is what it's going to look like moving forward. And after probably about an hour of shuffling things around, here are the conferences moving forward. As mentioned, I do have a video breaking these all down, but we'll run through it rather quickly. ACC is mostly moving back to normal. This is going to be all the East Coast teams. Big 10, you're going to have more of the Northeastern Midwest area. Big 12 is going to be Central, Southern Midwest. The Pac-12 returns in all of its glory, plus a couple new additions. And then the SEC stays strong as the Southeast Conference, though it is the smallest conference we have. As for its relegation conference, that will be the Sun Belt. Again, any of these teams that perform really well here, they will move up into the SEC. Any that perform bad in the SEC, they're going down to the Sun Belt. So we'll see if teams like Memphis, Louisville, if they could still stay competitive. Because if they don't, they might come down here. Maybe a Georgia Tech moves back up. We'll see how things flow. Mountain West, they're going to be the relegation for the Pac-12. So Boise State could end up going back there, or honestly, ourselves. We only won 2 games last year. If we finish bottom of our conference, we are moving down to the Mountain West. That's strictly how it goes, and whoever ends up performing the best down here wins the Mountain West. Well, then they can move up and replace us in the Pac-12. As for the Mid-American, or the MAC, that will be the relegation conference for the Big 12. And the same thing we talked about, whoever does well in Big 12 does bad in the MAC, vice versa. And Conference USA rounds out the bigs with the Big 10, and then that leaves us with the AAC for the ACC. Any tweaks you guys feel like make sense, do definitely let me know. I know one of these smaller ones doesn't have Florida teams, while the other of the higher up one does. So like the Sun Belt and the SEC. No Florida team here is in the SEC, but they are in the Sun Belt. That was because we had to try to balance things. And the ACC that does have the Florida teams, well, the American is one of the most full conferences, so we couldn't fit in the addition of all the Florida schools. So those will still probably play around. If the Florida teams win the Sun Belt, still will probably end up moving them to the ACC. And if any of the Florida teams in the ACC do poorly, then they go to the Sun Belt, just to try to balance that out. Hopefully the custom conferences work. I know sometimes if you go into like the custom conference rules, the number of conference games is blanked out. If you exit, then go back into it, it refreshed it for me. I'm setting it at 8 so that you have 4 non-conference games a year, and hopefully you play a majority of your own conference. So for a conference like the SEC, you're only really missing out on playing against one of your conference opponents each year. And for what is normally the sad part, we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to encourage any transfers. We are 3 roster spots under our maximum size, so we are good to go heading into the next season. And a weird thing that just cropped up here, you know how earlier in the video we talked about the coaching abilities not showing up here for the tactician part for a defensive coordinator? Well, now they are here. So we're looking pretty good. It's everything outside of cross-training that we have at least 2 in. So that's some good news here. But we'll be spending all of our coaching points here on Coach Barrington because, again, we do not have any other recruiting boosts from our coordinators. So Areas of concern for us heading into this next season. Running back we should be good at. Receiver and tight end. That'll definitely be pretty big. So let's start to add some here. Corners are definitely going to be another big one. So let's do that. Specialists not that worried about. Linebackers could be pretty big as well. So we're going to add 2 into each. That leaves us with 5. Let's just tack 1 on here for running back. Well, that gets us set up here for essentially the start of a new season. Preseason has arrived where we can set up our recruiting board and do our custom schedule. So we will wrap out here with the schedule starting at Hawaii. That is a fun game for us. Definitely leaving that there. And as we jump through, looks like we have pretty much all of our conference games here late on. I love that they still kept Notre Dame here. Really wanted to make sure we still had them. That'll be at home this year, so that is good. So we are left with our non-conference games being San Jose State, Hawaii, and Ole Miss. Now, Hawaii and San Jose State, those are our relegation teams. I think it would be great to keep them in here. But I do want to spread out these early season buys. Right now, Hawaii would be week 0. I think that could be fun. So let's leave Hawaii week 0. We'll have the bye week 1. And I think we need to shake up these Ole Miss and San Jose State games. So here's what I've got for us. We moved off of Ole Miss and we're going to put in the Pandas here because they have wrecked so many teams. We didn't play against any of the FCS directional teams in season 1. We went strictly up against the toughest competition possible, and considering that there's so many position battles, I would like to have a few weeks here to sort things out. The unfortunate thing here about our schedule is we have 4 of our 6 home games within the first 7 weeks. So when it comes to recruiting, we've got to get quick on top of some of these guys and get them up to available at least to get that visit in, because most of our availability is going to be in that first 7 weeks. That'll mess with recruiting a little bit. We've got to be on top of it here, but I do like the schedule that we have. And we won't go deep into recruiting, but I did want to show off what we have available here for us to start off. And there is 1 5-star popping up here in the recommended. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the only 5-star we're going to go after, but we're definitely going to be going after Nick Shermer. He's a run stopper. We need help at off-ball linebacker for the future. We might be able to find that here. We are starting 6th on his board. Above us, you have Boise State, Cal, UCLA, Utah, then USC. So definitely need to get on that quickly, but there are a lot of 4-stars available here for us. We already brought in, 16 in this last recruiting class? So we're going to get after these guys. It's nice to see so many, and a good handful of them are interested in us. So we should be poised for another good recruiting class. But that is where we're going to leave it off for this one. Went through our first off season here with Coach Barrington in Stanford. We saw a lot of guys see some progression. We brought in a good amount of players, but there is still a lot of questions. What do we do at quarterback with 280 overalls, 260 overalls on top of that? Both Elijah Brown and Chad Lloyd at 76. So competition for QB1 and QB2. Running back, we got that locked down. What can these receivers do here for us? Because it's a pretty light group, worse than last year. And tight end, surprisingly, Roush moved on. So now we've got a redshirt sophomore transfer in Jamari Johnson. None of them have speed, but we got to make sure that someone opens things up for us. Defensively, we've moved, shuffled around things. Tafiti, really going to lean on him this year. Cooper had a breakout late. And we're going to see what the new DTs and these linebackers can do for us. There's going to be a lot of new faces cropping up, so make sure you're around for it. Bear icon in the bottom right, or scroll down, hit the sub button, and definitely tap that bell icon. This series every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday. States only challenge on Madden every Tuesday and Thursday. And we'll see you next time as we get underway on the road in Hawaii.